Welcome back to Nuclear News. Let's dive into what's going on with this space. First up, price action. We have the Sprott Uranium Miners ETF only up 4%. So it's definitely taken a correction after its massive pump last year. Then we have the Sprott Junior Uranium Miners ETF waking up at 10.8%, right? So outperforming. Again, just taking a breather. We have the S&P 500 up 10.67%. So uranium junior miners outperforming the S&P 500. So that's short-term price action. Really, again, I say this all the time, but what matters is long-term fundamentals. So let's dive through exactly what is going on the long-term fundamental front. The US could need the equivalent of 40 new nuclear plants in the next 5 years. Blame power hogs, AI, and cannabis. So the massive need for energy cannot be ignored. Very power intensive industries booming and growing in the United States and around the world. So we're going to need more and more energy. AI will suck up 500% more power in the UK in 10 years. Grid CEO says, right? So really, if you look out, it's like, what is the biggest problem? It's the need for energy. They're not going to rely on coal. They're not going to rely on oil. They can't rely on renewables. And so there's only one option, and it's nuclear power, right? So focusing first on the supply of uranium, which is the fuel for nuclear power, we have uranium term sales 2021. This comes from a trade tech market update, right? So look at term sales in 2023. Absolutely massive. These are utilities buying up uranium, right? So we're almost at the level not seen since 2012. And so we're emerging from a big winter in uranium purchases in a big way, right? So this is demand starting to pick up. Look at what happened the last time term sales were anywhere near where they are now. So around 2012, like in 2011, the spot price of uranium was around 71, and obviously it hit a high of 131. And so term sales, which are the big driver of the price of uranium, are starting to skyrocket. And we've already started to see prices spike. And so the supply of uranium is getting scarcer and scarcer. Let's look at where we are currently. Again, according to this trade tech update that John Quake shared on Twitter, these charts, Western uranium supply and demand. This is where we are currently. We see the current 2023 Q4 requirements, the projection from 2023 Q4 onward in yellow, that's the demand. And then the bars in blue is the supply. So we're nowhere near the demand. That's what's causing the spot price of uranium to skyrocket as these term sales start to pick up. And so in the short term and the immediate term, we have massive buying pressure of a scarce above ground resource, which clearly, according to this chart, isn't going to be filled anytime soon, at least not out till 2040 and beyond. And so what these charts aren't necessarily pricing in is the rapidly accelerating, growing demand of nuclear. So let's dive through what's going on with that. Well, we talked about this a little bit last week. Huge demand incoming from artificial intelligence. Amazon, Google, and Microsoft signal growing interest in nuclear geothermal power. Big tech diving in with both feet to nuclear. Rising demand from artificial intelligence is forcing big technology companies to look beyond wind and solar for clean energy. This is the biggest story, really, if you dive into it, because what this is saying is that wind and solar are inadequate and they have to go into nuclear. Big tech has to go into nuclear. And so obviously, if they could, they'd go into renewables, but they can't. So this to me is as definitive as it gets when it comes to proving how inadequate renewables really are, right? If they could, they would. They can't. They have to go to nuclear. It has not been priced in how absolutely massive that is, right? Then we have the most powerful, wealthiest countries on the planet starting to understand this and diving in, right? With huge amounts of money. Investment announced to boost United Kingdom nuclear workforce. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has announced a package of public and private investment to reinforce the country's nuclear workforce and support 40,000 expected new jobs in its defense and civil nuclear industry. Biden-Harris administration announces $1.5 billion conditional commitment to Holtec Palisades to support recommission of Michigan nuclear power plant. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. In historic reversal, U.S. to restart a shut down nuclear power plant for the first time ever. Again, not priced in. France eyes spent uranium plant to bypass Russia. The French government has said it is seriously studying the option of building a plant to convert and enrich reprocessed uranium to cut its reliance on Russia following the invasion of Ukraine. And so still in the early stages of big infrastructure build-outs and investment in this space. China's nuclear corporation expanded investment budget for 2024 by almost $17 billion. Huge amounts of money, right? In theory, trillions and trillions of dollars moving into nuclear power and just exponentially accelerating the demand for it. India to triple nuclear power generation capacity by 2030. So these are the wealthiest, largest countries on the planet. European Enrichment Company signs new contract with South Korea. Seoul is bullish on nuclear power and is planning to build new reactors at home and abroad. As AI booms, land near nuclear power plants becomes hot real estate. This is the land that these nuclear power plants are going to be built on is increasing in value. The fuel required to power these nuclear power plants also starting to increase in value naturally. And so obviously we're just painting a picture of an unfolding nuclear renaissance. But looking out, the revolutionary technology of SMRs just magnifies how big the demand for uranium fuel is going to be. Rosatom signs agreement for floating nuclear power plant plan, right? Floating SMRs, small modular reactors, all around the world, still in the early stages of a massive supply crunch in uranium.